Valenta and Zuzka Daňková run Taste of Prague, a food tour company taking visitors to some of the city's best cafés and restaurants. The couple also have a very impressive Prague Food Blog, offering insider tips on the most happening spots in the Czech capital. Our tour of their Prague begins at the Emma Espresso Bar, a cool modern café just across the street from Masarykovo nádraží train station in the downtown area.
I think it's actually very hard to find a very good café, like for the quality, in terms of the quality of the coffee, in the center. Because, many good cafés are in more residential areas, maybe in Karlín or in Vinohrady, but this one is centrally located and very conveniently located next to a big, also an office building. So it's always busy here, and the only problem with it is that we often meet friends here and we want to work, so we don't get anything done.
To me, this seems part of a trend of kind of hipster cafes in Prague. When did that trend begin, and which cafes would you say were the pioneers of that?
I think that specialty coffee and hipsters kind of go hand in hand. And this became the first with visually. It was a very, very, I would say, hipster cafe.
The first cafes was like Al Cafetero and Šálek, no? And Al Cafetero is not hipster at all. It's more like, like visiting your grandpa or something, right? It's more like living room.
That is true, but I don't think actually that the hipster, it may have hipster visuals, if you will use that word, but I don't think it has the hipster attitude. There will not be raised eyebrows if you ask for, sugar.
What other cafes would you recommend in Prague?
Well, there are many, specialty coffees here in Prague, but I really like Masarykovo and Místo and Café Mat because they're close to where we live, so we go there quite often.
I also think that Café Karlín are really one of the pioneers here. It's a small espresso bar. And we like Coffee Room quite a bit. Yeah.
Also, one thing that impresses me is that they have free water, which isn't something you find everywhere by any means in this country.
That is true. Many of our guests are surprised by this, but culturally or traditionally, that is not a thing that has been served here for free, water. So it's a fairly new phenomenon for us, tap water for free.
Yeah, but many more and more places are introducing it, even for a small fee. That's perfectly fine.
You think it's fine? I think it's kind of awful when I see on a menu. I saw one place 17 crowns tap water.
Why do you think so?
Because I think it's just like a resource, and also it's kind of, I feel insulted as a customer that they're trying to screw me for a little bit more just for a glass of water.
Well, I think in some cafes they may give some part of it to a charity or to a fund.
Yeah, it's Místo and Masarykovo do give it to charity. But I think, they use their glasses, they pay for it, and some people order one coffee and then they start working on their laptop and work 3 hours with one coffee, so it's not really cool for the cafe.
A couple of years ago I was in America, in New Orleans, and I noticed in the cafes there that they had simply become co-working centers, unofficial co-working centers. Everybody had their computer out. Is that happening here too?
More and more often, right? Emma is probably the only cafe which doesn't have Wi-Fi here in Prague. The only specialty coffee place.
I think also I read a statistic somewhere that we are, maybe for various, including tax reasons, we have the highest proportion of population that are self-employed, freelancers. So I think that also helps.
Do you guys work in cafes?
All the time.
But we order all the time, every 30 minutes we order something.
So you're buzzing every evening by 6 o'clock, you can't sleep till 3 in the morning?
You know what, I could get a big pot of coffee and fall asleep right away. Coffee doesn't have that effect on me.
Zuzka needs to duck out for a while, so Jan and I stroll down to Karlín, a once run-down neighbourhood that's rapidly come up in the world in recent times. Indeed, an excellent blog post they wrote on the burgeoning district last year was my introduction to Taste of Prague. As we stand on its main square, Karlínské náměstí, Jan tells me he's got strong ties to the area.
My father used to live here for the longest time. He lived at Křižíkova, which is one of the longer streets here, right next to Masarykovo, which now is Masarykovo. He used to be a receptionist at the Olympic Hotel. Palmovka. So all I remember when I was a young boy, when I went to see him, we would just be going through this neighborhood, and he would not cook that much, and so we used to go to the pubs quite a bit, and one of them is Hamburg. Hamburg used to be a pretty bad pub, but now, just like the whole neighborhood, it got gentrified, and now it's got resurrected as a new pub. And so I've spent quite a bit of time when I was a kid here.
I was reading your dad lived opposite the pub U Zabranskich.
Yeah, well, that's a very loaded, historically loaded pub. I mean, I think that the Czechoslovak Communist Party was founded there in 1924. Also in the 90s, it was a pretty rough pub because it was a neo-Nazi pub. There are lots of skinheads in that pub back then. He lived exactly opposite that pub.
I was reading also on your blog that Karlín is the only district of Prague set out on a grid. Is that really true?
I think so. I think it is. It is so easy to map it, actually. It's very, because you walk in the center in the old town, it's a maze. You walk through a winding street and suddenly it kind of goes into 3 different streets. You don't know where to go. They're never straight. But here, it's, really quite rectangular, quite grid layout. So American guests feel very at ease here.
What particular spots are popular with your guests?
Well, I think they like the cafés. Because the specialty coffee in Prague really started in Karlín with Mušálek kávy. Now we walk past Café Karlín, which was opened by the guys of Kávový klub, who really started the whole specialty coffee scene here, to help start it. I think they like Lokal, the pub. Simply Good is a very popular place because it's a bakery for the best kolače, which is something that our guests from Texas are very keen to try because it's a big Texas thing, but because of the Bohemian community there. What we really like, and what I think they really like, is Tea Mountain, which is, I think, the best tea room in Prague. And right next to it, Veltlín, natural wines from the former Austro-Hungarian Empire, Central European wines. So I think these places are notable.
I guess many of your guests would find it hard to believe how grim it was here in Karlín, say, 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Before the flood, it was a... they don't even put scaffolds up. Yeah, so that's how grim it was. It was just really bad. Yeah, it was a socially, I would say, neglected area a bit. There's not much here. People kind of just lived here, but there were not many businesses here.
But still, it seems to me that the gentrification came some years after the floods, right?
I think what happened was that we're looking at the new developments here right next to the river. I think it just took some time to build these things. I think the developers were very shy to move here. There was a big discussion about the anti-flood barriers that were being put here. They wanted guarantees that the flood would never happen again. So after the few years that we kind of discussed the barriers and made that happen, I think that's when they started building. And that brought the offices and that brought the people here.
And how do rents and property prices here compare to other parts of the city, roughly speaking?
Well, I think they're catching up to them. They clearly have gone up. I don't think they've gone up to the point where old settlers will move out because it would be simply unlivable. But they're going up. I think sometimes they're a bit higher than it's just because of the hype. Some of the buildings may look beautiful outside. You walk inside and it's a disaster. I mean, like the courtyards can be pretty rough here sometimes. But yeah, they're going up. And I think that, honestly, 15 years ago, if you ask me, would you like to live in Karlín? I would say, absolutely not. And actually now we've been thinking about it because it's very near the center. It's just one subway stop away. And it's a very nice leafy district in the summer. Yeah, why not?
From Karlínské náměstí, it's only a few minutes to Eska, an acclaimed new restaurant that's part of the thriving Ambiente group. Eska is located in a large complex that also reflects Karlín's image as a district on the up. A former factory that also houses a state-of-the-art music venue and a leading publishing group. Zuzka has now rejoined us, and I asked the couple what market the restaurant, which also includes a bakery, is aimed at.
I think young urban professionals for lunches because we're sitting in between many offices.
I think also for people who travel a lot, who are interested in food, maybe like lighter food, more modern approach in food.
What's the menu here? What's the typical menu?
I think they want to take some like Czech ingredients, which some of them are forgotten from the like diet of Czech people already, and they want to reintroduce them into eating habits.
Exactly, they want to serve Czech food, but kind of maybe a depart from the butter-infused, kind of meat-focused Czech cuisine that is usually served in pubs. This is something more lighter, more modern. It has, I think, a health concern, maybe a bit of an environmental concern too.
I was reading somewhere that they're partly going for a northern style here. What does that mean, do you know?
It's like inspired by, I think, northern style.
Nordic cuisine, I think there's an environmental concern a bit, that they don't generate too much waste. They don't really go for very expensive produce, while you're using produce that is very common, that we see around us all the time.
And you use it in a clever way. So they use basically all plant or whatever they have.
Also, you guys were telling me that it's a good place to have breakfast at the weekends.
Definitely. We are here like every weekend, right? They have like egg breakfast, but then they have also something more interesting like the porridge with poached pears or plums. They have also like granola with beetroots and yogurt. And then they have like bigger dishes, like some kind of soup, some kind of like meat and so on.
This is only my second time here, but on both occasions I've been impressed by the sheer number of people working here. It's kind of like a factory.
It is, it's located in a former factory, so that's that. But also it's a three things in one. It's a bakery, so there you'll see bakers walking around. It's also a specialty coffee place, so there's a few baristas here, and it's a restaurant. I think that just the simple fact that the kitchen is open, it just seems that...
That's what I think, but in many restaurants you can't see the kitchen, so you actually don't know how many people are working there, while here you see everything, right?
Also, this place is part of the Ambiente chain. What has Ambiente done for dining in Prague, and even in the Czech Republic, would you say?
Everyone knows that we are like big fans of Ambiente. I'm not gonna hide this, because no one else did what they did for Czech cuisine here. What's great about them is they themselves travel a lot, and they invest a lot of money into their people, to their traveling. They have chefs constantly traveling to like Scandinavia, to London, to learn from other chefs. And I think you can see it, and I hope we will be seeing it more and more.
Well, they're clearly a very ubiquitous restaurant group. They have like 800 employees now, but they've really helped, I think, even like the prestige of many professions. I mean, if you look at the butchers now, with what they've done with Naše Maso, I think it's people think for the first time that being a chef or being a butcher is actually not the thing you do when you don't get into any other school, but it can be actually a cool profession by itself.